Good afternoon and welcome to Speaking Truth to Empire on 88.1 KFCF Free Speech Radio for Central California. My name is Dan Yassin and I'm a local peace and justice activist. Frank D. is at the controls. Today is April 18th, 2012, third Wednesday of the month. Every third Wednesday from 3 to 3:30 p.m. I interview authors, scholars, bloggers, and activists who help us look at our world through the prism of American imperialism. On the show, we talk about U.S. policies, both foreign and domestic, and the actions of the U.S. government, big corporations, and the mainstream media. These actions have severe consequences for the people in the United States and in other countries. To create a better, humane, and a compassionate world, we must first understand what is being done in our name, and we must always be willing to stand up, speak out, and speak truth to empire. Today, we have a very special guest on telephone with us, Medea Benjamin. Hello, Medea.
Hey, Dan. Nice to be on.
Thank you. Medea Benjamin is a co-founder of both Code Pink and the international human rights organization Global Exchange. She has been an advocate for peace and social justice for more than 30 years. Described as one of America's most committed and most effective fighters for human rights by New York Newsday and called one of the high-profile leaders of the peace movement by the Los Angeles Times. Medea has distinguished herself as an eloquent and energetic figure in the progressive movement. In 2005, she was one of 1,000 women from 140 countries nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. In 2010, she received the Martin Luther King Jr. Peace Prize from the Fellowship of Reconciliation. Medea is also an author-editor of 9 books. Her latest book is Drone Warfare, Killing by Remote Control. Today we will talk about the book and the anti-drone movement. Medea, give us a preview of your book and what can readers learn by reading your book.
The book looks at the issue of drone warfare from many different angles, including who were producing the drones, what countries have them, where they're being used, what's happening with these pilots who are based thousands of miles away, most important, who are the victims of this drone warfare. And then it gets into the legal issues, the moral issues, and finally in the book looks at what people are doing to try to stop the proliferation of killer drones and also at the proliferation of drones that's about to happen here in the United States once the restrictions on drone use in U.S. airspace is lifted.
You have done a great job of covering the invention and the history of the drones in your book. Tell us how Israel and 9/11 have contributed in the growth and proliferation of the drones.
The Israeli military has been involved for decades now in the research for drones and in the production. And in fact, the drone that's most used by the United States as far as killer drones, the Reaper and Predator, were initially developed by an Israeli engineer who worked for the Israeli military and then moved to Southern California. There are strong bonds between the United States and the Israelis in the research and production of drones, and the Israelis are number 2 after the U.S. in terms of producers. The Israelis have less restrictions than the United States on who they can sell to overseas, so Israel is responsible for a lot of the proliferation of drones. And they have used the drones extensively in the Gaza Strip. This was true during the 2008 invasion, Operation Cast Lead, and drones continue to be used today and actually terrorize the Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip.
And the 9/11 tragedy played a big part. Reading your book, I found out in advancement of the drone technology also.
Right. There had been a push for using drones before that, but it really was 9/11 that was the kicker. After 9/11, the Pentagon went into high gear acquiring every single drone they could get. They maybe had about 50 drones at the time, and today they have maybe over 7,000 drones. These are mostly the smaller ones, but maybe about 800 of the larger ones. And 9/11 was certainly the justification for this buying spree that the Pentagon went on. And now drones, as Leon Panetta says, are the only game in town, and the U.S. Is not going to focus on any other weapons, aerial vehicles, any new aerial vehicles that are manned. The future will be these unmanned systems.
Surprised to find out that number of other countries that have drone technology and have drones. Tell us about that if you have some figures and what's going on in other countries as well.
There are over 50 countries that now have acquired drones. These are for surveillance purposes, but it's very easy to transfer from surveillance drones to lethal drones. The only countries that have actually used lethal drones are the United States, Israel, and England that has used them in Afghanistan. But there are now plans in the works for joint production of drones between the British and the French. The Germans have acquired drones, the Australians. It really is the latest technology that countries want to get a hold of. Number 3 in the production of drones is the Chinese, and they will probably surpass both the U.S. and Israel in the coming years. They have even less restrictions on selling of the drones overseas. And so we are seeing the beginning of the arms race in terms of drones. Some people liken it to the early days of the Wright brothers for the airplane. We're at that beginning stage of drones right now.
A company most Americans have never heard of, General Atomics. Tell us about its role.
Yes, General Atomics is a relatively small company that's in Southern California, and it's interesting how Southern California really is the location for most of the drones that are being built. It started out as a very small company in Poway, California, that was involved in the initial production of the Reaper and Predator drones. It has also recently made the sales to the NATO allies. The vast majority of all the sales, though, are to the Pentagon. They have cultivated a very close relationship with members of Congress, spending lavishly campaign contributions to members of Congress. They also take members of Congress on trips to see how these drones are being used, sponsoring in 5 years 86 trips for members of Congress to see these drones in the various places they're being used.
You are listening to Speaking Truth to Empire on 88.1 KFCF Free Speech Radio for Central California. My name is Dan Yassin, host of the show, and we are speaking with Code Pink co-founder Medea Benjamin. In 2009, Cindy Sheehan and many Code Pink activists joined Peace Fresno in an anti-drone protest. They were on their way to Creech Air Force Base to protest the drones. Anti-drone movement is growing. Code Pink has been a leading group in this movement. Tell us about the anti-drone activism.
They are small in numbers, and this is really the beginnings of hopefully a much larger movement. Right now we have groups that are going to places like Creech Air Base and also Hancock Air Base in upstate New York, and other places where drones are being piloted, or the pilots are being trained, or the drones are being tested to try to bring attention to the fact that this is going on in the community. There are also groups that are going to places like General Atomics, to the makers of the drones, and protesting at their headquarters. Code Pink people have even gone to the home of the CEO of General Atomics. And then there are groups at universities that are beginning to research the connection between their universities and drone research. Grants given out by the Department of Defense to many universities around the country, including one in a large amount of money going to Johns Hopkins. So these are some of the activities. There are also human rights organizations that are trying to pressure the government to be more accountable and open in how they determine who is going to be killed with these drones, and then legal groups that are suing the government to stop the CIA from using drones, and also stop the killing of Americans overseas with the drones.
Most of us have never heard of Creech 14 and the Hancock 38. Tell us about them.
These refer to the people who started the original protests at Creech and Hancock. They are, as you said, many of them are Code Pink activists. Many of them are activists with the Catholic worker community, groups like Voices for Creative Nonviolence, and they have done peaceful nonviolent resistance at the bases themselves. What has been interesting is how they have used their trials to get out these issues about the illegality of the use of drones, the immorality of the use of drones. They have used on 2 occasions, they have brought in expert witnesses who have testified on the issue of international law. They brought in former Attorney General Clark, and they have made the court a venue for talking about what we should be talking about as a nation, which is how can we allow our government to be killing people overseas in places we are not at war, in situations that we have no idea who is being targeted, why, no accounting for the civilians that are being caught up in these drone strikes, and using the nonviolent civil disobedience as a way to force this conversation. And we are going to the Hancock base next week. It will be the anniversary of their civil disobedience there. More people will probably get arrested. And I think it's one of the important ways that people have for letting the members of the community in those around the air bases know what's happening right there at home.
There is no government oversight on drone proliferation. Whatever the Pentagon and the CIA want, that's what they get. I was surprised to find that there is a Congressional Drone Caucus. Whom does the caucus serve?
We are really appalled that there is this caucus and that 50 members of Congress think that part of their duty as elected representatives is to push for the proliferation of drones. In fact, yesterday in the halls of Congress, they had an exhibit of robotics, including drones, that we went to and spoke out against. The Congress people are all getting money from the weapons manufacturers, and of course that relationship we can see in terms of the larger question of weapons production in this country. But in terms of just drones, this caucus is so closely related to the drone industry that they recently forced the